Hi, and welcome back to the White Noise podcast of Skye and Lyanna. Happy Valentine's Day. This is our first ever Minisode. We thought we'd do it to celebrate. Today, we're going to be talking about period romances because I'm a huge fan and I'm really trying to get Skye in on it.
We are trying.
just
a little overview of what this episode is going to be. We're still trying. But, we're getting there.
Varying degrees of success, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I think the first thing I want to dive into is the most recent thing that's come out, and that's Bridgerton, because you said a minute ago you've only managed one episode.
Yeah, I was going to say, to anybody who is a diehard fan, it's fine. I'm really sorry, but I couldn't do it.
I struggled, man. What was it for you?
Everything? That it was obviously we all know they're not actually set in the periods, but I don't know if it was just so obvious that it wasn't in the period. I don't know if it was the thank you next orchestra. I don't know if it was the Gossip Girl or the super cliche teenage let's pretend to date. Because my plan when I realized I couldn't watch the first episode was to watch the first and the last one, but I was like, I'm not even going to do that because I know how this ends. Even if I hadn't seen all the clips, I know they're going to fall in love.
How do you think it ends?
I think they just get together and he says something about burning. I think you should get that checked out.
Right.
That's all I know.
So you made me pissed because when you say about it just looks bad, yeah. That has been a massive point. Like, there's like a whole subsection of YouTube that is all about like period drama accuracy and costumes. Yeah. They've been dying for this content. They've been pissing. Like, this is their cinema sins moment is the best way I can put it. And they're just all pointing out so much stuff. And I felt the same. I felt like it was people that had gone to a costume shop and grabbed them and said, let's put on a shitty stage show. That was it. Yeah, and let like a fucking 13-year-old write the script. So basically, the materials were all wrong. The colours were all wrong. Like the intricate lacing all over their costumes. They would literally not have been able to produce that lacing in the Regency era, which makes me die because they're like, oh, it's period accurate. It's period accurate. No. I'm miswording that. They were like, it's not meant to be fully period accurate. Like it's meant to be like
you were literally telling me.
Yeah, no.
They actually thought this is what it was meant to look like.
No.
Because somehow it just plummeted even more.
No. So basically, they tried to say that it was like Regency with a twist, like a modern twist. This is in like character and costuming and stuff. I'm like, that's just taking the piss. So that's excuse more than anything, in my opinion, because I don't know, like you already have the twist in that you have, like you say, the Gossip Girl vibes, which is kind of how it was marketed. When you've already got that kind of taking you out of it, you need to make me believe it's actually Regency era. They just kept trying to make it seem like the fucking modern world in a Regency backdrop. I didn't like it. It felt like a drama project by like drama A-level students.
I think like my biggest thing was that if it wasn't for the fact it was set in a Regency period, it would have been like anything else that's out there at the moment. It would have been things that were done before. And like you were saying before about it being set in the Regency era, the Regency era is the only thing that saved it. Like, I'm not saying that that's the reason it was good. If anything, it's possibly why it wasn't. But it's the only thing that got people talking, because otherwise it was just a plot that had been done before. It was very bland. The reason that I think you could tell it was bland more than anything is because there was like 3 sex scenes in the first episode. Like, I'm not a prude, if you've been with us for a while, you heard us talk about the handmaiden. I don't mind having sexual scenes in a film or a TV show. Sometimes I don't even mind when they're pointless. I'd rather they not be pointless. But it was just like, you knew they were there because it was going to be the interesting thing. It was going to be the hot erotic thing. And it was like, really? Like, you either need to be an erotica or you need to be a serious drama. Sometimes you can have both. And personally, my example of that would be Outlander. I really like Outlander. I think that's an example of both, but it just didn't work. It was too teenagery. I think I am hugely not the demographic for it, which is the biggest thing.
You say that,
teenagery, and it was too straight.
You say that, but it's a lot of people in their 20s talking about it primarily, which blows my mind. massively. I don't understand what this show wanted to be. Like you're saying, it can't decide what it is.
That's it.
It's a Frankenstein's monster of a show. Like, it's best way I could put it is it's a Netflix original. Like, you could watch one episode and know. And I'm just going to put it out there. Couldn't buy into any chemistry. I think they have zero. I think they have absolutely zero. And I think that's like
I haven't seen it and I agree.
Exactly. Like, no, even just in the first episode, they have like, they talk for 2 seconds. You should already be able to feel something. So, like, another thing we want to talk about, I'm just going to mention it because I still have very many things to say about Bridgerton. Another thing we're going to talk about is Pride and Prejudice. Even when they first talk to each other, you get that little bit of tension.
Yeah, I am a huge fan of the enemies to lovers trope. I am. As long as it's done right and it's not done with any toxicity.
Yes, and it's not contrived, because that's it in Bridgerton. It's like they've got no reason to dislike each other. Why do they dislike each other? Why? And it's
just a pompous ass.
Yes, it's a forced enemies to lovers. Whereas in like Pride and Prejudice, he is of a higher station, as they would say. So he has reason to look down on her. Not like, like actual reason, but like you see why it happens, or why she perceives it that way, because that is kind of like, that's insinuated in Pride and Prejudice, and that it might be very much from her point of view that he thinks that way. But anyway, in Bridgerton, there's not really a protagonist, is there? It's an ensemble cast. So it's not like you get that interesting tension of they think they don't like them, or they they're picking up the wrong vibes. It's, you see it from both sides and they're just dicks to each other. Like, why are they like that? The costuming
doesn't make any sense.
And the costuming, right, which in say like Pride and Prejudice, where you can see the different levels or like their differences in character, you can't really see that in Bridgerton, apart from the fact that the different families had different colors, right? I've seen so many people talk about this in articles, and they think that this was this really clever thing, that the Duke wears blue and that Daphne wears like pink, and that when they eventually get together, she wears purple.
No.
I'm like, that's not clever. That's so basic. No.
I mean,
this sounds really nasty.
I was just going to say, I do not want to take away from, I'm sure, the hard work that was put into the show. This isn't us saying it's a bad show. It just, in our opinion, it wasn't for us.
Well, you can say that, but I also, there is a big part of me that thinks it is bad. Like, you can have your opinion, but then you can see something objectively, and Bridgerton is objectively bad.
The reason I feel so strongly about it, though, is because I saw the potential it had.
Yeah, that's true.
I saw the good thing, even from the first episode. I saw the good things they did with it as well. And I was like, why couldn't you have just, instead of having recycled writing and like this really bland plot, it needed something else. It needed something other than this time-old tale that literally only works in Pride and Prejudice because of its source material, because of the era it came from. It was
there are actual politics
pioneer.
in it.
In its genre.
Of course.
There's a reason, like when people say, oh, they don't make films like this anymore. There's a reason certain types of films can't be made anymore, because the point has been made. The world has been made aware. Sometimes it happens. Again, they're able to do it, but a lot of the time it just, and I think unfortunately, especially with Netflix stuff, and it's a shame because they do have obviously some really good shows where you can tell the effort and the work's been put in, and then you have ones like this that are just easy to consume. And I'm a huge fan of easy to consume stuff, especially during times like this when sometimes it's the only thing you can do. But there was just something about it that I was like, I don't want to waste my time watching this. I know I'm not going to enjoy it. I don't think I'm even going to enjoy hate watching it.
Well, this is my thing, is I was in this weird limbo between enjoying and hate watching. So as much as I say it's a bad show, I did watch it. I did, because it was something to watch. And I couldn't tell you if that's just because it's a lockdown or not, but it was something to watch. But so I sound like a hypocrite, whatever, I'll admit. You can watch something even if you don't enjoy it that much. It's not hard to just lay your eyes and ears on something. But I really want to point out something glaringly wrong with the show. And you just mentioned how some things make a certain point at a certain time, and that can't ever be replicated. Like, you can redo it, you can rehash, you can adapt, but it's never going to quite have the same point. Like, it changes throughout time. Its meaning will change, everything. A big problem for me, and a lot of other people with Bridgerton, is that it tried to tackle modern problems in a Regency era. Let's just talk about the Queen being Black. and the fact that the king fell in love with a black woman, so apparently loads of black people in society were raised to higher stations. That's brushed over. That comes up like twice max, and then they never talk about it again in the rest of the series. So they basically try to do a colorblind show set in the Regency era, which is probably the most ignorant thing.
I didn't know about any of that. Like, I obviously knew that the cast was more diverse than you would see in a period romance, and I hate people's excuses of like, oh, it's just period accurate, because especially with shows like Bridgerton, it's like if it was period accurate, you would have period accurate costumes and period accurate
music. You can't pick and choose.
Because they don't, it bugged me, because the only discussion I saw about this were people kicking off basically that there were people of color within the show, and I was like, why does it matter?
Yeah, of course,
it's not the focal point of the show, so I didn't really know anything about it.
See, I agree with you, it's not the focal point, but the problem is they still try and mention it. You either have to make a point of the fact,
an excuse for it, which I thought was ridiculous. Just
I have no idea. It's very bizarre.
Rewrite history the way it should have been. That everybody's just.
Well, this is the weird thing. It's not like they chose to make a Regency era show where it is a diverse society and cast, and it's not like they chose to make it so-called period accurate like past things have, which is bullshit, because we know that it's not exactly been only white people in England forever. Bullshit. But they tried to straddle this really weird middle ground, and I don't know why they made that choice. No, it doesn't work. It really doesn't work.
I wonder if they were afraid of stirring controversy, that they wanted to kind of try and stir it themselves, but maybe they didn't want to push it too far, which, like you said, I think is ridiculous. I mean, stir it, because also it's like controversy.
Well, there's some really controversial shit later on in the season. Oh, really? I'm not sure if you know about it.
Literally, my extent of this show is the first episode and Twitter.
Okay, so
stuff.
I don't know, maybe if you ever watched more, we could do a whole episode on this topic. We should have said spoiler warnings from the beginning, but obviously
let's be honest here.
Yeah, spoiler warnings for every episode, really.
For every episode.
Basically, a whole massive thing in the show is that Daphne doesn't realize what happens in the marital bed, and she wants children and the Duke doesn't. One thing they do kind of imply is that because his dad was raised to a higher station when the Queen became Queen, he was obsessed with having a male heir. So that's something they could have really, really gone into, but they only imply it. And because his dad was such a dickhead and very abusive, the Duke doesn't want children. So every time he and Daphne fuck, he pulls out. Daphne doesn't realise that that's not normal. She thinks that's just sex because she hasn't been raised to know how sex works. So she asks like a maid and she explains it to her. And then there is this one scene where Daphne has a go at her mum being like, you kept me ignorant. All women are kept ignorant and men aren't. And I thought that's so interesting. But that's it. They don't really go into anything else.
So it sounds like they bring up a lot of issues, but
yes, but then it gets worse. When Daphne figures out how a baby's made, she tries to make one by force, aka she goes on top. Yeah, it's
oh my god,
it's awful. It's awful.
I'm not gonna lie. We're probably never going to do a full episode on this show because I don't think I'm ever going to watch it.
I was horrified by that because obviously trigger warnings if you've gotten this far, but that's very clearly a rape scene, isn't it? Like very clearly. And a lot of people don't seem to have noticed that. And weeks after the show's premiered or whatever.
Does the show know that? Does the show know that's what it was?
It doesn't really ever say, because in the end she does end up having a baby because they make up afterwards and they have sex and she has a baby. So it's almost like she's rewarded for it.
Oh my god.
Exactly. Like this show is going to give a lot of people some really fucked up messages. It really is.
Oh, that's I didn't know that at
all. Yeah. I know.
So bad.
This is what I mean when I say like, even if you could get into it and it's like binge worthy, there are some truly fucking awful things about this show. And like if it acknowledged that fact, that could be really interesting. But like I say, lots of conversation worthy things happen, but then the actual conversations aren't had.
That's such a shame. I'm now glad more than ever that I didn't watch it further, because that would have been so frustrating. Just because you mentioned about like women, I could tell from the first episode that was going to be some kind of, or I assumed that was going to be some kind of theme in it. because of Daphne's character talking about how basically her only role was to find a husband, but not as in like it's all she was made for. It's that society is basically like she has to, and she's like, okay. So that I thought that could have been interesting, but
I mean, we've talked about Bridgerton for like over 15 minutes because there's so much. You only watched one episode.
Okay.
This is more my fault. But as you're just saying, you think like they mentioned Bridgerton, that's all women are made for and stuff. Other things we wanted to go into in this mini-sode do that a lot better. Like Pride and Prejudice is the obvious example. Emma is a very obvious example. You haven't seen Emma, but you've seen Pride and Prejudice.
No. I watched Pride and Prejudice and surprised myself by enjoying it for the first half of the film, and then I just couldn't hack it anymore. I finished the film.
What was it that did it for you? Like that made you lose interest?
I've said to you before that, so I've never read the book. I didn't really know much of the storyline. I knew more than I thought because the storyline itself isn't particularly intricate. It's like the enemies to lovers thing again. But I said to you that I always had like this detestion. Is detestion a word?
I couldn't tell you.
I had this detestion for Mr. Darcy, probably simply because his name was Mr. Darcy. I just couldn't get over the fact that he was only ever referred to as his title. Yes, that could be because I don't like men. Not as in like I hate men, but they apart from friendship, they have no use to me. I just didn't like the fact that and I always felt very detached to him as a character because of that. Not someone I could ever see, even like when I was younger, I could see as a romantic interest. But then when I watched the film, the things that drew me in is because I love romance. I'm a huge romantic. The romance in that film was so well done, even if I still didn't like him as a character. I thought the romance was so sweet, and I just wish it had been gay. That's all I wish.
Well, I bet my bottom dollar there's a million gay adaptations, but something I really, really want to point out quickly is that knowing that Jane Austen was quick as shit and quite a smart woman, I'd be fairly certain that she refers to him as Mr. Darcy throughout to make a point. It like translates weirdly now because we think, why the fuck should that be the case? But I don't know, Joe Wright, who obviously directed it and is known for period dramas, he was never going to change that, was he?
No.
And I
think understand that. I don't think they should have done because he is an iconic historical character. I get it. I just couldn't move past it.
I know, I'm the same. And he's not hot. He's not. People find the character hot. They don't find him hot. I didn't want to say that
because I didn't want to be horrible.
It's not.
I think unfortunately it's that thing that you're always going to fail at, because in a novel you create the character yourself. You create your ideal version of the character. So whenever you're casting somebody as this heartthrob, as meant to be this huge romantic thing, you're never going to find somebody that appeals to everyone. Well, I'm sure there are people out there who think he's perfect.
Well, I think that with a character like Mr. Darcy, he could have just been more of a blank slate, like in the casting. I don't think that actor is much of a blank slate, in my opinion. In the way that Chris... Really? I don't necessarily mean in the acting. I mean visually. Because I know people don't want to think so, but obviously visuals are a huge part of casting, and casting directors know that. I think that's... As much as I love Pride and Prejudice, I think that's one thing for me that didn't work. I think everybody else was perfectly casted. Acting-wise, he was well casted, but the look just didn't work for me.
I thought his acting for the character was brilliant. I just hate the character. So even though his acting was accurate, I hate the actions of the character.
So what do you think about, like, I'm trying to think of like amazing scenes. What do you think about the scene where he touches her hand?
Okay, that I freaking love.
I knew you would.
That, oh my god, I actually think I shivered.
But
not because I was like, oh, I want him to be mine. It was just like, wow, that was so well done. And I also realized that hands were a huge thing in the film.
Yeah.
I love the fact that the characters never kissed, maybe because I'm just so over hetero couples, but I'm so happy the characters didn't kiss. Like, I even love the fact that in their big scene where they could have kissed, she kissed his hand, and it's because it's this whole idea of her obtaining his hand in marriage.
Yeah.
I just like that. I like that idea. But yeah, that scene, it was just so quick. And I think maybe after that scene is when I started losing interest.
Yes, because it felt like building up, and then it's kind of like, yeah, we get it, you like each other. Why are you being kept apart now?
Yeah, it just unfortunately also fell under the curse of, again, I haven't watched a lot of period dramas and romance, but they are quite long. I know they are, and I think it just went on a bit too long. I thought the characters were established brilliantly, and I thought they did a really good job of it, their relationship, their chemistry, the actual individual characters, but then they kept doing it, and I was like, I get it. I get these characters now. Can we move on?
Yeah.
That's what it kind of felt like.
Because I guess it works better in a novel because you're constantly finding out new stuff about characters, whereas in a film you want to see actions, don't you, to move it along. It's just the pacing's completely different, isn't it, from a classic novel to a film? And you're right, you get these, classic adaptations. They sometimes forget that in translation. A really good example of that is Anna Karenina, which I really think you should watch because it's the same director, also Keira Knightley. Aaron Taylor-Johnson is in it, which is very interesting. Oh my God, you have to watch Anna Karenina. So it's like based on like the classic Russian novel. And it's so interesting because it's about a woman that falls from grace because she has an affair with like a young, handsome man, and it's Russian and it's brilliant. It's so interestingly done because I think in this one, Joe Wright was so aware of how melodramatic it is. And this is obviously a different period to like Regency, and it's a completely different setting because it's Russia. So you feel very much more detached from it. So Joe Wright made this brilliant decision to make the whole film almost like it's set on a stage, which you love because you love Moulin Rouge.
I think
you would like Anna Karenina.
The trailers for it, and I think I really wanted to watch it, but I think it was during an era where I didn't have access to watch stuff unless I went to the cinema. So I've never had money, so
now we have streaming services. I do think you'd like Anna Karenina because it I think when we think period dramas, for some reason we always think British, and that's not the case because I think
that's very true.
Me, the whole world love The Handmaiden, which is it's a period romance, it's a period drama, it's a period thriller. It is.
Oh my God, you're so right. That's ridiculous how we've been
isn't it awful?
Like that.
Exactly. Wow. And I know it's ridiculous because when you see period drama, you just assume it's British, and like that might be because we're British, but I know it's horrible to assume, but I do think maybe like a lot of the West, when they think period drama, they think British.
Just bringing up like The Handmaiden, now that you have made a point that it is a period romance drama, one of my biggest things with Pride and Prejudice is that there just never seemed to be consequences for anything.
No.
And it removed like the thrill of watching a film and rooting for the characters. Like in The Handmaiden, there was like every turn was like, oh my God, you just wanted them to be together, but there was so much in their way. In Pride and Prejudice, it was like there was a conflict and then it was easily solved, and it was always solved by money.
Yes, but then that's another thing with period dramas. You really have to buy into the politics of it. If they can't sell you the politics, what's the point in all that backplot? Like, it's not even backplot, it's main plot. It's plot A, because it's the same in Emma, which I'd just been saying to you before we started this call. Basically, Emma Woodhouse is a rich girl, rich family. She's been raised to not care about marrying. Like, she actually doesn't care about marrying at all. She likes playing matchmaker with other people, as you see and share in Clueless. And and which, like, I mean, it's an adaptation. Like, Skye was mind blown before we started this call.
Just before, and I was like, what? Like, I would have never known because I haven't seen Emma, but like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I think you can see it a lot in the new Emma rather than the Gwyneth Paltrow one, because they lean into the humor of it in the new one, which Clueless does as well, obviously. Almost lends itself to like a sitcom vibe, situational comedy, a bit silly. So yeah, Emma doesn't care about marrying. She likes matchmaking other people, and you see the privilege in that because she befriends a young, I guess she's what do they call her? A natural child, not a bastard, a natural child is what they call her, because they don't know her parents. Yeah. And she lives at like, I literally forget all the terminology, which is awful. She lives in a home with lots of other girls. Emma takes her in almost as like a pet and tries to like marry her off to other people.
Didn't they call them like wards back then or something?
Yeah,
like that?
Kind of, yeah. She never takes her on as an official one, but yeah, she kind of treats her as like a fixer-upper, and she tries to fix
fixer-upper.
Yeah, no, literally, that's it. And she tries to set her up with someone in her circle, like Mr. Elton. He's obviously not interested in her because he's he considers her below his station, and she's interested in a lovely man, Robert Martin, but Emma's going on constantly, no, don't be with Robert Martin, he rents his farm, God forbid. And yeah, and what's great about Emma is it's very aware of the politics and it makes it funny, but it also shows a lot of learning curves for the characters. There's a lot of personal growth, there's a lot of humor to it, there's a lot of actual discussion of politics, like finance and gender wise. I think you would like Emma a lot more than Pride and Prejudice.
Like, damn you, Netflix. It sounds like I would have enjoyed Emma a lot more.
I do think you'd have liked Emma a lot, especially because it was a British production. Yeah. So immediately it's just more interesting than Bridgerton, because although Bridgerton is like British, it's still Netflix, you know? So you get that weird in between, like with Sex Education.
I was just going to say Sex Education, like, oh my God.
Exactly.
American British is weird.
Yeah. Whereas with Emma, it's got this weird, gorgeous pastel color palette, and it's just brilliant. It's like, it's more period accurate in its costuming and its set design, so you can buy into the world a bit more. And it's just, I don't know, I love it. And you don't get Thank You Next orchestral covers, which you get in Bridgerton.
I'm not going to go back to Bridgerton because I'll be here all day. But I think, it sounds like I would have enjoyed Emma a lot more. I think just with Pride and Prejudice, and I think a lot of period dramas, again, I'm speaking from a place of naivety because I haven't seen a lot of them, but they've always struck me as very straight. And I know, to anybody who's been listening to these for a while now, it's going to seem like a joke that I only like gay things. It's just because it takes a special kind of romance story between a man and a woman to hook me. It just does. And I mean, my favorite film is Moulin Rouge, which I know is super campy, but it is still between a man and a woman. And with Pride and Prejudice, it was just like, it became so stereotypical eventually, which I know makes sense because it was almost like the blueprint for this kind of trope and drama. But I think it's because I knew they were going to end up together in the end. I knew that they were. But just because I know doesn't mean I should expect it, if that makes sense.
Well, even if you know and you expect it, you should still be able to like buy into the tension.
That's what I mean. I still want to be like, you know, the difference with like The Handmaiden, for example, is I didn't know. I literally had no idea where that film was going to go. But there are films where like, okay, I don't want to keep bringing it up in Moulin Rouge, where you know the ending at the beginning. Yeah. And I know people have different opinions on it, but I still root for the characters and I still have these moments. Whereas in Pride and Prejudice, I just didn't. It followed a very linear, expected story. And it just didn't give me the excitement I would want from it. Maybe that's the norm for period dramas. I don't know. But that's, again, I think why I couldn't get past Bridgerton, because I knew what was going to happen. And just from the way they laid out the first episode, I didn't see it getting much better from there.
I do think a massive part in it does lie in chemistry, because a lot of this is an investment. Like you say, like even if you can see something coming a mile off, if you get super invested in it, in the world and the characters, you almost like forget about where you originally thought it was going to head because you're just so in the moment. And if there's no chemistry or there's no tension or no good narrative, you're not going to feel that at all. And that's completely on like, not just on the script, but on like the actors. It's on everything. It's just on absolutely everything. And I think that's where Bridgerton fails, where a lot of other period stuff shines. Like, although you might not like have loved Pride and Prejudice, it's beloved the world over. So clearly I
totally get it. Even when I was watching it and I wasn't enjoying it anymore, I completely understood. And I think maybe that was part of its downfall because it was such a beloved story before they even created that film. I think they kind of knew it was probably going to be a success. It's like, I don't know, the only times I actually liked Mr. Darcy was weirdly when, I think one of the first times I was like, oh, okay, is when he told Elizabeth, that is her name, right? That sounds,
Lizzie Bennet, you bitch.
All the book nerds out there are going to kill me as well. But the first, when he says, I love you, when he just comes up to her and says, I love you. And then at the end when he stutters, and I wish they'd shown more vulnerability with him.
Yes, but that's kind of the thing I like about Mr. Darcy, is that like in that era they couldn't exactly like that says that doesn't sound good.
I totally understand, because I completely understand what you're saying. I understand in that era, but I didn't want him to be vulnerable with everyone.
Just her.
just her.
Yes,
I needed more moments between that. He was gone more than he was there.
See, this is the thing though. When would they have had more moments? Because it's the Regency era.
Letters is the biggest way to solve that.
Skye's just going to rewrite Pride and Prejudice erotica.
Well, you know what? Somebody rewrote it with zombies, so if they can do that, I can do that.
Just like, Skye, what's your AO3 account?
No, the world's not ready yet. No, I am currently rewriting it in my head now. But yeah, even something as simple as I think, letters could have worked so well, because it's like he can't physically even speak these things to her.
But he can write a gorgeous letter.
Yeah, like I probably would have like upped the film a bit more.
Don't even, because if that had happened, like, fuck Jane Austen, man. We're telling her in her grave how she should have written her classic, beloved novel.
That's not what I'm doing. Please
yes.
don't.
No. Hear me out. If there had been a thing where like he'd sent her a letter, not like a massive thing, just short, sweet sentence or two, and then the next time she sees him, he's cold again, that could have upped the hot and cold. Like, it not necessarily healthy, but you get into it.
Yeah, actually, hold on a minute. Are we okay?
Push and pull. It's all about the push and pull.
I think in the novel, maybe I should read the novel. In the novel, I'm sure that works so much better the way it was portrayed in the film. But I just think I just needed more moments between them, and I don't believe this bullshit excuse of when would they have had it. Like, they ended it, like, he was seeking her out at one point. Dude doesn't have a job. She doesn't have a job.
Man.
Me and my partner were living in different countries.
I don't think you were made. Together, so. I don't think you were made for period dramas.
No, I don't.
Like, you've got no job. Hang out.
I said to you, but I know there's more to it than that. I'm just being obtuse. But I said to you before we started this that unless it is Victorian
or The Handmaiden
has vampires in it, or is The Handmaiden, I don't watch period dramas. I don't actively avoid them, but it's just like if I'm scrolling through and they pop up, I don't like. I remember a friend of mine said once, like, I suggested a show to her to watch that was pretty much period drama, and she was like, "Oh, I don't really like period dramas," and I was like, "How can you not?" And then I've thought about it. I was like, "Wow, neither do I." I never realized it before. I just haven't found enough of them. You know what, people listening to this, feel free to send suggestions to us for me to watch and change my mind. I actually want my mind. Well, my mind hasn't even been made up yet. Help me make up my mind.
I'm gonna post on the Twitter account, like, please recommend some good period dramas to Skye. Preferably include gay vampires, or I don't know. Is there a third essential?
Yeah, Victorian.
Yeah, Victorian. This is when we find like a gay vampire. Is Jack the Ripper Victorian era?
Yes.
Yes, so we can have a gay vampire, Jack the Ripper-esque period drama, and Skye is in it.
Oh, even better. Okay, I think Lyanna's getting distracted here now.
I'm not. I'm just saying that, like, this stuff is out there, like gay period dramas and all. We just really need to dive in.
I mean, I will admit my extent into period dramas has been what we've spoken about today. Apart from stuff that, like you just said, The Handmaiden, I didn't even really consider period dramas, but of course they are. So I just need to delve into it further, and I'll find my niche in it. Everybody does with everything.
Exactly. This was a minisode.
Yeah.
But it's been really nice to chat about. Don't think we really spoke about the romance part that much, in all honesty.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Oh my god.